Welcome to another Adobe Script tutorial. This time, a viewer request. The user asked to insert two different images into two different smart objects in one picture. I'll show how. In Photoshop, I have an example image open. There are two smart object layers. These are not masked. We'll talk about masked layers later in the video. Open one of the smart objects, and you can see that's all there is to it. This time, I won't write code line by line. I've already completed the solution, most of it using prior tutorials for the basic structure. Then added code generated by the Scripting Listener plugin. For the interface, the script has an input folder and an output folder. I've hard-coded the locations, so I don't have to pick them every time. You can change these to whatever you like, or make them empty strings to select the locations every time the script runs. The work of the script happens in the functions. Get files we've covered in earlier tutorials. The function getLayer also, but I'll explain it some. The function finds a layer by name, the first layer that matches. But the layer might be inside a group. So it doesn't work to simply loop through the doc layers collection. You have to check if the layer is actually a layer set. To do this, use a subfunction searchLayers. Pass the object to search and look for the layer. If a layer set is found, the function calls itself to dig deeper. To start the process, call searchLayers and pass the active document. When done searching, return the layer found. Or if the layer was not found, the function returns undefined. Next is the function process. Some of this we've covered before. First of all, the template document needs to be open. This was handled earlier in the script. To begin, read a folder of images. What's unusual this time, I'm taking the first two images found and putting them into the first result, then the second two images in the second result, etc. So the progress total steps is how many files divided by 2, because for every 2 files there's one result. I've created a variable, count, to keep track of results. Now loop through the files. Increment every 2, as I explained. Duplicate the template document and name it result plus the current value of count. Then call the function processLayer twice, once for Smart Object 1 and again for Smart Object 2. Or, if there are more Smart Object layers, call the function for each one. 2 layers or 10, the idea works the same. The function processLayer I'll explain in a moment. Finally, save a PSD of the duplicate document and close it. Increment the count, increment the progress, and continue the loop. Finally, close the progress window. Here is how the layer is processed. Pass to the function the layer and the file object that will update it. First, get the boundaries of the placeholder. This is the layer property bounds, and it takes into account any mask applied to the layer. From the bounds value, calculate how wide and how high the boundary is. From that, calculate the center, the left coordinate plus half the width, and the top plus half the height. We'll store this in a 2-element array. The center point X and Y coordinates. Next, replace the contents of the Smart Object layer. For this, we need the layer selected. I have another function to handle it, selectLayer. I'll explain how it works in a moment. You can pass to the function the layer name or its ID. I prefer using ID because every layer's ID is unique. Because layers can share the same name, selecting a layer by name isn't always reliable. These 4 lines of code from Scripting Listener replace the contents of the Smart Object. There are 2 parameters to notice. First, a file object for the image that replaces the layer contents. And second, the string placed layer replaced contents. If the layer is masked, the next steps to position the new content won't be accurate. So disable any layer mask. Otherwise, the layer mask is considered and throws everything off. Also, unlink the mask so we don't scale or move that. However, the layer may not have a mask. The code to test if a layer is masked is complex. It's easier to simply disable the mask but wrap it in a try-catch block. If there's no mask, it's an error. Catch it and ignore it. Likewise, the layer could have a vector mask. Again, the same idea, only the parameters are vector mask enabled and vector mask linked, both set to false. With masks disabled and unlinked, we can get the layer bounds. From that, calculate the new content's width and height. Then its center, the left coordinate plus half the width, and the top plus half the height. Now move the replacement to the same center as the placeholder. The placeholder index 0, the x-coordinate, minus the replacement center index 0, and the placeholder index 1, the y-coordinate, minus the replacement center index 1. Next, calculate how much to scale the height. The placeholder height divided by the replacement height, times 100 to make it percentage. And calculate how much to scale the width. The placeholder width divided by the replacement width times 100. We want to scale proportionally, so choose one of the scale percentages, either the height or the width. Use the math method max to choose the greater of the two. That ensures the replacement fills the area. To show all of the replacement image, instead use the math method min. Then resize the layer using the chosen percentage for both width and height. Or, to let the content stretch non-proportionally, use the 2 different percentages for width and height. Either way, anchor the position middle center. Now the replacement is the right size and position. Next, enable the layer mask. This is the same code as above, only enable the mask by changing false to true. Same for linking the mask. And the same for vector masks. Again, all use try-catch blocks to handle when there isn't a mask. Now I'll cover the last 2 functions. Save PSD. Create a file object and a Save Options object. The file object needs the folder, a path separator, the name, and the extension PSD. Set your Photoshop save options as desired. Then dock Save As, and pass the file object and the save options. The function SelectLayer accepts a layer name or a layer ID. It does this by looking at the ID constructor name. If it's string, it's a name, so we put name. But if it's not string, it's probably a number, which is an ID number. So instead, put identifier. The rest of the code is the same either way. That makes the layer selected. Now let's see how the script works. Here's the input folder. 4 images that will make 2 results. And here's the template document in Photoshop. I've made an action to run the script. The script reads the folder and starts making result 1 using the first 2 images. Then result 2 using the next two images. And it's done. Let's see the results. There it is. These results are unmasked. Here's a variation of the template with the layers masked. Have a look at the results. The new content is within the masks, and both have been scaled to fit. To give an idea of why disabling the mask is important, I'll comment out the code and run the script. Then have a look. The scaling is wrong because it's based on the mask size, not the new content size. Doing it like this, there's no telling what scaling you might get. Obviously, that code needs to remain. And here is a variation of the template using vector masks. That works too. I've made a download for the code. Get it at the link in the description. Like this video and subscribe. Also, leave a comment. All feedback is welcome. Click the video or playlist on screen for more. Thank you for watching.